letting anybody into these streams. All right, so we got confirmation they can hear us. So we're gonna go roll right into it. It is 2:00, and hi everybody. Welcome to the Driftwood Tavern Presents. It's our Neverwinter's community stream, and we are here to do the fourth quarter EP Q&A, or executive producer.
Hey, what's up, chat?
We've been trying to do these once a quarter. And so far,
this is weird.
Been pretty good at being on schedule.
We got it.
It allows you folks to have a chance to ask the important person in the room, not me, sadly, one day. Hey, I have aspirations. The important person in the room, the questions about Neverwinter. So all those questions that you have, just we have some stuff we want to cover. But I'm gonna let Brett introduce himself first, say a little bit about himself, and then we'll kind of go more into the agenda. So
let me
Brett,
know if you can hear them well.
Howdy, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Brett, the executive producer on Neverwinter. I'm basically kind of the showrunner for Neverwinter. So while I'm not like the specific design lead or the specific programming lead or art lead, I work very closely with all of our various leads and sort of help organize the efforts across all the various disciplines that work on Neverwinter, from marketing to design to programming to art, etc. So I have my hands in a lot of things, even though I don't specifically own any one thing. But I also definitely do have to say a lot on the business, marketing, and release ends. And I'm sort of responsible for organizing things like release schedules, when modules go out, and making sure that the whole team is getting things done and ensuring that we release new things for Neverwinter and keep the game in a good and healthy state. I'm also, as many of you probably know, a big fan of Neverwinter. I've been playing for many years now, and I've got, I think, over 1,000+ hours into the game now at this point. And I've got several characters that are fairly high up, so I'm pretty familiar with Neverwinter from the ground up.
And while you're talking, some players were saying that a bunch of players just dropped on Xbox. So I've sent Terramac to investigate. So hopefully... Terramac, if you
Xbox
would be
is
awesome
down.
And maybe like keep
Lonnie.
Updated on chat.
Hi, Kevin. Hi, chat. So hi, everybody.
We did have a server outage briefly yesterday on PlayStation. Hopefully that's not the same thing we're seeing on Xbox, but it's a possibility.
Yep. Just keep us updated, and Terramac is on.
Just let me know if the sound is like low.
That's all right. So just some quick housekeeping stuff. I guess for those of you who don't know me, I'm the community manager for Neverwinter.
Yes, we know Julia. Yes, we know.
And we're just going to cover some Q&A. We do have a presentation. We have slides. I know a lot of you loved it when Lasser had all his slides, so why not bring some more stuff?
This is good.
So we will be answering questions, but we're going to do the presentation first just to... in case that answers your questions ahead of time, or in case it creates more questions.
Maybe it's a roadmap.
Giveaways, because I know you're always curious. I do have giveaways today, but I cannot
Can't spell presentation without presents.
Exactly. But I cannot award them right away because there was one that I was just testing on live a minute ago, and I found a small little issue that I am working on. It should get solved pretty quickly. But it is two brand new exclusive community giveaways. One of them is a vanity pet, and it is the Cosmic Rainbow Crab, so a little crab. So yes, make all the jokes.
Hey, Bionic,
you want.
What's up, man?
I will also be sharing.
Let's see what they got for us.
Multiple codes for these with the content creators from the CCP, so they will be able to spread that around as well. But the other one is finally we're getting a new community mount, and it will be a rainbow, starry rainbow tiger. So we know how that we have the tiger vanity pet.
Screw the tiger. I'll participate this time.
I love it when I have new things, and I love that the team has been really supportive about creating these items for me for a giveaway to the community. So
not a lot of viewers though.
At the halfway mark, and then towards the end.
Gotta say.
And I'll be sending out the codes until everything.
76 viewers, and Brett Norton is here.
But let's go straight into the presentation. So Brett, if you want to bring that up, and I will start removing logos.
All right. Let me try this. I'm going to share, and hopefully I share the correct screen.
All right.
So
we're gonna go full screen. Let's see this.
I see something.
Everyone's seeing that?
I see a watch stream button, like it says watch stream.
He's not sharing it.
That's not what I'm seeing.
Let me see what I see in here.
All right. Let's see that new slides. Maybe they got something for us. Okay.
Oh, wait.
Wait, what's this?
All right.
Everyone else is seeing the watch stream button.
We got it, guys.
They should now have fixed it.
Aha!
There we go.
I'm spying on the Twitch stream while doing this. It looks like it's up.
Yep.
All right, everybody. That's going to be really confusing for me to look at, so I'm not going to look at that. I got to go back to my slides and take a look. All right. So, hey, everybody, welcome to Neverwinter's, and we're going to chat here today about Neverwinter's sort of roadmap a bit here. It's the 2022 to 2023 release schedule. So, first off, talk a little bit about how we're going to be handling releases for the upcoming calendar. So, we're going to be doing sort of the traditional module releases that you've come to know and love, I guess, about Neverwinter. We're going to do 3 module releases per year. That's our rough target. And I'll say that those modules would be of a typically medium size. When I say medium, I mean that they're probably not going to be as large as, say, M16 Undermountain, but at the same size, they're not going to be as small as probably, say, M17.
Yeah, I know it.
The sort of Undermountain Part 2, which feature Trial of the Mad Mage and the incursions, etc. So there will still be some, though, slight variance from module to module about what those sizes are. So some will still be a bit bigger than others, but we're generally trying to hit a sort of a medium-sized 3 per year cadence of these modules. Nice. It'll vary, again, a little bit depending on where things land, but hopefully you'll see things in a pretty good cadence. And from that, we also want to note that annual releases of these modules will share what we call a block theme. And if you're wondering what a block is, I'll go a little bit more into it here on the next slide. Talk a little about blocks. Blocks is a term we've kind of stolen. It's used in Magic the Gathering and a few other kinds of games and whatnot. But blocks are basically a group of modules related by theme or narrative. And the reason why we're doing this mostly is so that we can plan stories across blocks. This gives us the ability, for example, to have some NPCs that may persist across blocks, various story arcs, and other things that we can do about it. So that way we can plan slightly larger, slightly more epic narrative hooks or themes that might run across these modules. And we've done this in the past. You've seen this with sometimes like areas of Chult. Even the most recent M18 and M19 had some characters like the Vollenhof family carrying across between the various blocks, etc. And this is something we're going to do with a little more intent going forward, where we're actually going to sit down, plan out a rough arc, a block arc, year plus in advance. So we have at least a loose framework for how we want to approach a series of modules and make sure that we can tie really strong narrative theming around those. However, we still want the modules to be mostly self-contained. We're not trying to do this in an episodic fashion. And specifically, I was asked to add this one, that blocks will not be episodes. It's not like each module is going to be an episode. It's not trying to recreate New Sharandar. Each module we want to be sort of a self-contained thing, much like you see with North Dark and Reaches and everything, where it's sort of this fairly self-contained complete complete module that we release that comes out and hopefully gives you all a great experience and feels like, it's more like an episode, more like a season of an entire television show rather than sort of like just a single one episode that has like cliffhangers, etc. So we hope it feels pretty complete while still leaving hooks for like future seasons. So, and in case, again, expect that we put in more hooks across modules. So we'll try to leave some narrative threads, maybe a little dangling, so that it feels like the module is, again, well self-contained, but gives us an opportunity to set up some things and have characters persist across perhaps multiple modules. To note, Module 24 and Module 25 will start to showcase a little bit of this approach. These two were kind of a special case. They were written almost as a twin pair of modules because we have Gino Salvatore and R.A. Salvatore working on these modules. They're doing the writing for a lot of our various characters, campaign plots. We're tying them into R.A. Salvatore's new books, etc. And we've already talked about how, in the past, how Module 24 fits into the new Way of the Drow book series, and Module 25 will also fit sort of within the scheme of the new book series and has a very intertwined narrative with Module 24 as well as the Way of the Drow book series. So with that, I'll jump in and start showcasing the 2022 to 2023 Neverwinter Roadmap. So for a little framing context, we had Rothe Valley come out here in about August. So that was not a module, just sort of a small little content piece. We'd had that in development for a while, and we finally wanted to get it out. We used it as a bit of a prelude that went straight into North Dark Reaches. So North Dark Reaches, Module 24, just came out here in November, and that's sort of our big new module. Hopefully everyone's having a good time with North Dark Reaches and things are going smoothly. And we are already well into the throes of working on Module 25, which will be Neverwinter's next module, slated to come out in March of next year. No spoilers, that's just a generic image, so if you're trying to read too much into it, I'm not dropping any hints just yet.
So in March,
around the same time that the Module 25 comes out, also the D&D movie, for those of you that are unaware, there is a Dungeons & Dragons movie called Honor Among Thieves. It's got some great trailers online that you can go check out, and I recommend it. It looks really cool. It's got a very kind of Guardians of the Galaxy vibe to it. Good cast, and we're looking forward to it as well. That'll land around the time of Module 25. I'm not implying anything. I'm just noting that there's going to be it should be a pretty nice March for D&D, thanks to the movie's release as well as, for example, Neverwinter's release too. And then we're already starting planning on Module 26. And again, there's a generic image. Don't read too much into it. But that'll
So we got
come out in either late June, perhaps in July, depending on a little bit on how scheduling goes. Obviously,
26.
it's 6+ months or so roughly out. So there's a little bit more variance in the schedule when it comes to that. But that's the rough cadence you can start to see as developing. You can see Module 24 in November, Module 25 in March, and then Module 26 in, let's say, early July for the sake of argument. We're still going to be running a lot of the classic events that you know and love from Neverwinter 2. For example, we just got done with the Masquerade of Liars. And we do have the Winter Festival up and coming that will still be hitting here in December. And we'll have the Feast of Lanterns, which will show up in middle-ish to early January. It's a very early Lunar New Year, and the Feast of Lanterns is generally tied to the same time that the Lunar New Year happens. And then we've got April Fowls and Day of the Dungeon Master, which will also make their regular appearance. And then coming up in the summer of next year, we have the all-important 10th anniversary for Neverwinter. And we are definitely planning some interesting and unique things specifically for the 10th anniversary. It will not just be a complete rehash of the previous anniversary events that you've seen. We're going to be doing some unique and custom fun stuff for that event, given that it marks 10 years of Neverwinter. So expect some fun and unique things with the 10th anniversary that hopefully go a little bit above and beyond what we've done for some of the anniversaries in the past. That being said, we're still obviously very focused on ensuring that we get these modules out, and we kind of recognize that the modules are sort of like the big mainstay driver of Neverwinter, and we want to ensure that those are all fantastic new modules here for sort of the end of 2022 and going into 2023. And we have at least one more small release coming out here before the end of the year, and that is the Demogorgon. And the Demogorgon will be returning to live servers here in December. I don't have the specific date yet, but before the Christmas break is our target. And you will see both a sort of normal version of that, which will appear in the random trial queue, and a master version of that, which will be targeted for very endgame players, very similar to what we did with Master Tiamat. And the two will have obviously some differences, and the sort of normal version will be a lot easier and will be focused on working in a random trial queue. We've done a lot of play testing internally. It fixes a ton of the issues that we have with it. The normal version's a lot easier than the prior version that you all saw. And the master version will be pretty challenging. And there's a lot of good updates to it right now, and it's playing really well, and it's a lot of fun.
Big news.
So that is what's upcoming for Neverwinter in sort of the latter quarter of 2022 and into the first half plus of 2023. Then kind of going beyond that one, I'll paint a little bit, and this is a little more fuzzy, but I wanted to give just a sort of brief example to extend it out of what the Neverwinter 2023 to 2024 roadmap might look like. And this is just a very high level look. We would continue to do modules sort of in the way we planned. Module 27 would come out in November, and then Module 28 there in March, and then Module 29 possibly there in July. And you can kind of see that's somewhat of a little bit of a consistent and semi-predictable schedule. And we're trying to go for that again, 4-month period of time between each of our releases, and kind of hitting that November, March, July-ish rough time frame. And again, there's going to be some variance. Some might be early March, late March. Some might be in early April. The November module might be late October or late November, etc. So there will always be a little bit of variance within that one. But we're trying to keep it up so that we have a pretty consistent and solid release schedule, so that we're always putting out new stuff, and that we kind of know that there's always something to look forward to on the horizon. There will still be events and other things intermixed with it, but this kind of gives you a loose example. And once again, try not to read too much into the images. I just pulled images from Celeste, Nox, and Zuna on there to showcase them. And this, for example, would give you an idea of how the next block might look out. Like we would start a new block theming here in November of next year, and then we'd likely have some strong narrative hooks that carry between all those and some strong thematic carryovers. And I'm not going to spoil anything, and I hope I don't slip in, but we're already doing planning for that as well. So not only are we in the midst of working on Module 25, we've already got loose plans, and we're working on pre-production for Module 26, but we've even got sort of high-level pitch for what we would do across the entire next block and how those modules would break down some of the key features and cool things that we want to do with it. Again, it's much more subject to change given that it's a year out, but we want to ensure that we're looking pretty far ahead and have a reasonable idea for how we want to approach this, what we think the risks are, what cool and unique things we want to do.
Hey, Dustin.
But that is the brief
Kevin.
little snapshot of where Neverwinter is at and kind of where it's going
So
from
we got
scheduling and kind of roadmap
mod
example.
29.
And with that, I'll turn off the sharing and we can get back to more of the conversation.
All right.
And less of the presentation.
All right.
All right.
Did that stop sharing? All right.
I have to stop sharing on my end as well. Let's see. Close that, and there should be us again.
Well, we got a lot of stuff.
Yep. Okay. There we are.
A lot of stuff.
Name tags up. And
Coming up.
for my awesome coworkers. If you are pinging me on Teams, I cannot look because for some reason OBS has decided lately that when I do more than one thing at a time, it likes to turn Brett into a robot. So I mean, if you want REP to be a robot overlord, then sure. And Mac and Ketchup, Julia, tell the demo guy he's hot. Like the demo guy is in like the Demogorgon.
All right, Julia is blabbing.
Or Lasso,
so what do you guys think about this? This is like more, he's a they got up to mod 29. We got 6 mods.
Oh no.
To go.
Bunch of know-it-alls.
Yes. Sadly, they do know it all.
I used to be a systems designer.
Never mind. I want to keep my job. So hopefully that answered a number of questions, especially the Demogorgon. That was one of the more popular ones.
I don't know, Dustin. I don't know.
Appeases some of you. And some of you were asking some questions. I tried to capture a few of them, but not all. So if I don't get to it, I might ask you for the first time to actually repeat your question. Just don't spam, please. So he means Brett. I still have to be professional, so I will give Brett many compliments. He's a great executive producer. He's a great boss. I do love working with him, but I do have to stay professional.
Wow. Tell me more about how good I am.
Yeah, it's a system designer and you coming out. All right, so I'm going to try to go in order. If I do not get to your question right away or during the stream, it is not personal. It's just there's a lot of interest, so that's awesome.
No new classes struck nerd.
There was someone who has asked about the PS4 shutdown yesterday, so I believe PS was down for a couple hours, Brett.
Yeah.
But we brought it back up.
Just a technical issue. It went down for a while, and there was it was a server-side issue globally.
I think Xbox is down now.
Fix to try to minimize that from happening. It's
I don't
not
know
a
if anybody here
problem,
is from Xbox.
We did see it crop up, but
you can check it out.
It's an internal tech issue that we've identified. So.
Yep, and I believe it was just a couple hours, so thankfully it didn't impact the whole day, which.
Yeah, and it's nothing specific to Module 24 or anything like that. We didn't see anything related to the Module 24 update in that.
Yep.
Just unfortunate timing.
So the Naked Dwarf wants to know if we plan on keeping mods synchronized. I'm assuming they're asking if we plan to release them on all platforms at the same time.
Yes, the simultaneous releases that you have seen with Dragon Slayer and now North Dark Reaches is the expected norm going forward. Trying very hard to ensure that we have all the work done well enough in advance that we can get thorough testing on all the platforms. And we're also trying to ensure that we schedule our more risky technical updates off-centered for this module. Something I didn't include in that one because it mostly affects us internally is that when we do some of our technical upgrades to ensure that we're compliant with Xbox Live and PlayStation Network standards, that we're not doing those.
They have an old engine.
Modules. That's been sort of one of the source of headaches in the past.
I don't think they're going to
do those and the module releases at the same time, and we are not doing that anymore. We've broken those into different steps so that we can, focus just purely on the module and have hopefully very clean, consistent launches across all platforms.
So some people are still asking about Demogorgon. I'm not sure if they came in later, but Brett did mention that, yes, Demogorgon will be making an appearance in December. We don't have the specific day yet.
So Demogorgon in December?
Yes. We will announce
I thought he's going to be next year.
To repeat, Demogorgon, both a normal and a master version, returning in hopefully early December before basically the Christmas holiday since Cryptic's on break then.
I should probably change the title.
The normal version will be in random trial queue and the master version will not.
Let's see. What other questions I was seeing? Oh, that's a lot of questions coming in. Hey, Brett, I have a question. These master trials and master dungeons, are they really planned this difficult? Is the target endgame player supposed to be so minimal? I don't think we have more than a few dozen players completing these master trial dungeons. So I know there's different philosophies about.
You said 126 or 29.
Talk about your thoughts on that.
We're trying to hit a mix of audiences with the sort of normal versions and the master versions, and we want something that definitely incentivizes the very dedicated, guild focused groups to get together, complete some of the master trials. But we definitely need content that's accessible. And so we get to a point where we feel like, the normal versions are too easy and the master versions are too hard. We will look at how we want to hit, a better balance because we understand that that's still not perfect. We want content that is still challenging, but not something that requires requires hours and hours of wipes to complete. And so over time, we think that we'll see some variation, especially in sort of the master versions, where it's something that some of them will be more challenging than others. Like we might have some that generally do take a lot of effort to pull off from a coordinated group, and perhaps hours and hours of practice. Whereas other ones will be a little bit easier to get through, something perhaps closer to like the Infernal Citadel level, where it's still challenging, but not something that requires you to have an organized group wiping for hours to complete. So we're going to strike a bit of a balance, but we did want to ensure that, for example, anything that goes into the random queues is something that is fair for a sort of a random non-coordinating.
Not a lot of viewers.
Struggled in the past was where we've had content. It's been more challenging than probably what a group of random players with limited communication can do. We put those in the queues and we've seen very low success rates on it, and so we're trying to avoid that problem. And once we've gotten a lot better at it, we've gotten to the point where we're getting more consistent about when we release something, does this work with a completely random group of players, and then we'll start also refining more and more what we do with the master versions and the sort of accessibility of the master versions as well.
Kind of
I don't know, Dustin. You have to ask on the stream.
Yama says, thank you for making in-game achievements for completing the Crown of Keldagon applied with either normal or master. Can you please do this for Zariel too, and possibly revert Tom back to 30k so people can get their achievements?
I'll check. I don't know about reverting Tom back to 30k. That's a bit tough, but we'll look about making the achievements for older trials and older content as well, sort of multi-accessible from whether it's the normal or the master versions. I know that there's a lot of achievement and trophy hunters that would like to get
about
those.
That. Let's see. Jonathan XX says, as the new mod is 10 weeks long, 2 months, and the coming battle pass would be 3 ? Parts that 5 months, so that's 5 months. Is that the plan for future module releases, keeping players engaged? So like the mod, battle pass cycle of...
Yeah, I mean, that's roughly what it'll look like. It's not going to be the exact same for every module. There'll be different components. We're going to generally try to keep the battle passes going, since they seem to be a good mechanic for getting sort of middle bracket players, get them more equipment and kind of getting them more towards the end game at a good rate. So we'll keep the battle passes going, and we're definitely going to keep the events going as well too. We'll still have events coming out. A lot of those events will still feature some unique rewards and other things. So we're going to continue that. And the modules that you see right now with North Dark Reaches is a reasonable example of some of the module things that we're doing. But as you can see, like even the difference between Dragon Slayer and North Dark Reaches, they're very different in terms of how they play. The Dragon Slayer was very focused on the dragon hunts. This one's much more focused on the adventure zone. So you'll still see different focuses for the different modules. They're not all going to be adventure zones. They're not all going to be hunts,
Please don't be adventure zones.
We'll vary it up a good bit. But we do have a rough target where when we put on a new module, we want to ensure that it's fun both in the first 5 minutes, but it's also fun 50 days after it's released still, and there's still things that you want to do.
So we're also getting questions about the Xbox preview server, and
I don't know on
Frida the PlayStation one
because it's laggy.
I have updates. I've been working on that bit. What do you have, Brett?
I don't have anything too much to say, but we are very much working on both Xbox Live and PlayStation Network, I wouldn't call them previews, but they are basically shards that we're going to use to get people in, get them a chance to look at the game. It's similar to the PC preview one, but since there's a lot less red tape involved with the PC, because we can kind of do whatever we want, there's not nearly as many platform restrictions. Microsoft and Sony put a lot more restrictions on who we can invite into these kind of preview shards, if you will. So it's not going to be as accessible as a PC, unfortunately, just due to factors beyond our control. But we are expecting to try to get up these sort of console platform specific, preview or beta shards, we may call them,
more people
where
in this stream.
groups of players can come in, help us test things out, ensure that things are going smoothly, and get a chance to get a little bit of a sneak peek
their
of
servers,
the
not yours.
Again, we have that advantage on PC. It's been great for helping us identify issues, work on balance, getting a chance to get great feedback from some of our most dedicated community members, and we hope to extend that to the consoles as well. Just sadly, more red tape. PC is just a more open platform in that regard.
Yeah, so I've been working with folks on the console stuff, and it's just a little bit slower going because, as Brett mentioned, the red tape.
It's their servers. Like
with partners,
Kevin said.
You have to work with their regulations. So as we get more information, I will share it. But right now,
hey, Helena Rose,
we're just
is it hard?
Basically back end pattern of.
I'll do the recap of the
specific example. For example, is that we can't just make a preview shard and let people log into it. There's limitations there about what we can do as far as invites versus how quote unquote a beta runs on a say Xbox Live versus just what we can do on our own. So it's a much more limited. We can't just let anybody copy their character over to a beta shard on Xbox Live. They don't allow that.
So Aster asks, hello, is there any possibility of reworking augment companions? They really give a lot of rating stats, and most of the new items of M24 are focused on giving rating. Same for most of Masterwork items. What do you think
Yeah,
on
new
change
executive
them
producer.
to give percentage,
Producer,
like 7%
sorry.
On 3 stats?
He's really nice.
Or,
I talked to him a little
maybe
bit.
change the companion stone to give percentage.
Yeah, the balance between augments and sort of active companions will still vary, but we're working on companion balancing. There is some changes that will be upcoming in the near future. I'm not going to put a timetable on it, but we are looking closely at active companion balance, some of the issues that we've seen with that, and we're going to take a look at augments as well too. You know, augments have a niche though, and there are certain times when it is very valuable to have augments. For example, certain augments are great for tanks as they're running the roles because they can pick very defensively focused augments that give them a ton of key stats such as defense, awareness, critical avoidance, etc. For DPS players, it varies. Sometimes some of them, depending on what augment you have versus what active companions you have, you may find more or less benefit. But we understand, as players get closer and closer to stat caps, it becomes harder and harder for them to slot in augments to use that. And so we'll look at varying up sort of the ways that augments provide stats here going into the future and see how what we can do.
I want to give out a shout out, not just to Terramac, but also Lasser and Midnight Light are in the chat. So thank you, folks. Because there's always a lot of questions coming in. So, if you guys tackle some of the ones that are more for your area.
Played with a few times. With new EP?
The questions we had. There was another one that I wanted to ask. Let's talk about RTQ. Are any plans to add Zerial's challenge in RTQ?
We have very much looked at, Zerial's challenge as well as just in general about what we can do. It takes a decent bit of effort to sort of balance something in a way that we feel it is appropriately accessible. So we very much would like to get the normal version of Zerial's challenge into RTQ, but based on what we saw at the last round of the last rounds of data in terms of success rates and whatnot, it's not in a spot where, unless we just radically nerf the mechanics into the ground, that it would be appropriate. So we would want to go into it, look at the mechanics that cause problems for truly random, uncoordinated groups, and make sure we address those before we just straight up put it into RTQ. So we will plan on looking at that in the future, but we've obviously been focused on Demogorgon as well as, North Dark Reaches and M25 work. So it's not currently slated as something that we're doing here in the short term, but it's also not something that, we may have an opportunity to work on it here in the near future. But right now, again, there's been a lot more focus on current work as well as Demogorgon.
So now talking about instead of Trials Dungeons. So is it planned to add Vault of Stars in the Random Advanced Dungeon queue?
Both Vault of Stars and the Infernal Citadel would require a significant amount of work, unfortunately, to be approachable for what we feel is the Random Advanced Dungeon queue. We had the Infernal Citadel and Random Advanced Dungeon queue, and due to some issues with it were just straight up bugged, which is unfortunate. But we also definitely saw that certain mechanics in the Infernal Citadel were very challenging and made it difficult. And we struggled very much too with, say, the other example I'll give is Castle Ravenloft. And Castle Ravenloft for a long time struggled for us to get it into a healthy spot in Random Advanced Dungeon. It's still very difficult. I think it's the most difficult.
You got a lot of mess left.
Dungeon in the Random Advanced Dungeon, even to this day. And it took years for us to get it to the point where it had extremely low success rates, to the point to where I think it's around 75% or more right now. And we don't want to put Infernal Citadel or Vault of Stars into the Random Advanced Dungeon queue until we're confident that we won't have that same kind of situation again where it goes in, it has a 10% success rate and no one wants to do it, etc. Like we have to get a version of it that we're confident. That being said, like I said, it's a good chunk of work, and we can't constantly go back and update those while simultaneously developing new ones. There's a bit of a bandwidth there. So, for example, updating Zerial's challenge versus updating Vault of Stars, Infernal Citadel, and doing things with those does consume a bit of our time. And we'll hopefully get to them all here and keep expanding the Random Advanced Dungeon queue and whatnot. But it'll take us a little bit of time to get through those.
Apparently, Dead Mano wants to know if they can get boss hats as transmutes from each boss defeated. So
we'll look into some boss hats. Maybe we might be able to come up with something.
I think there is actually an item in a new pack on the Zen Market that was released yesterday that I think includes 3 different types, a choice of one of 3 hats.
They're fashion.
If I remember correctly. So
and they cost like $15.
I mean, I think we all know who has the best hat in the game.
I agree, Kevin. I agree.
He will never let us use his
These are
hat
big news, but these are all like questions now.
I do like other hats.
Already shooted out the main things
So speaking
in the
of
beginning.
things released yesterday, we do have a question from one of the changes that came in Northrok Reaches, which is with the minor changes to 2 insignia bonuses, has the team looked into alternative ways to earn insignia powder in the upcoming mod or battle pass from 24?
We've looked at ways to sort of what to do with insignia powder because we know that that is a pinch point for some people when it comes to they're trying to upgrade mount collars and other things or just get their insignias way up there. So we're looking at ways where we can potentially award an insignia powder in slightly higher quantities. It is still earnable, obviously, through insignias, and we don't want to completely dilute the economy. But the question of, does it cost too much insignia powder to upgrade things to mythic? Does it cost too much insignia powder to upgrade mount collars? Has come up a number of times internally. I'm not going to speak for the systems teams on what the final sort of balance thoughts are, but it's a question that we've raised into ourselves and what we've looked at. And there's ways of handling it. We could, for example, just reduce insignia powder costs, or we could increase or add new ways of earning insignia powder. There's a lot of ways to tackle that, but it's something that we've looked at. As you can see, we've been doing a little bit of a mount focus. We've looked a bit at things like the insignia bonuses, where we wanted to fix some of them, make some of them a lot more valuable to players, etc. So we're taking a critical eye, looking at elements like that and trying to make sure that they feel good and that feel appropriately scaled. We are aware that insignia powder costs can be limiting for a number of things, especially things like mount collar upgrades.
We are getting questions about updating like the Reaper vendor, of course also asking for some insignia powder, but just as like a, to expand that to a more general question, do we have any plans to update other stores, other vendors?
Yeah. We are looking at that. For example, I think upcoming we are going to be looking at what's called the appointment vendor. That's for things like Hell Pit and Harvester and Siege of Neverwinter, etc. We'll be looking at doing some updates to add some more desirable items to the appointment vendor across its various categories. And I think that we're also going to be looking down the road too at things like the Reaper's Challenge vendor, as well as the Trade Bar vendor and a few other ones. So we hope to hit a couple of those upcoming here in 2023 and just get some small updates in to each of those vendors to add more exciting and interesting ways to spend the currency that you've got to make the, especially also doing a little bit of like sort of cost balancing too. Like some of the items are priced in ways where it's very much encouraging you to get one specific thing, sometimes at the expense of others. We recognize that there's sort of a evaluation imbalance there, and we don't like that. And we want to see more equivalent balance. So we may, for example, lower the costs of some things in the appointment vendor rather than perhaps taking them out entirely. Just be like, no, that just needs to be half of its current cost. That's a more fair price for that item in the vendor. So we are looking closely at those.
I'm trying to keep questions cohesive, but I do have to jump around because they come in really fast. So Sarah91 asks, any thoughts about adding known and used mechanics like hypo spread in the training room as requirement to access the random dungeon or RTQ for the sake of adding more dungeons and trials?
Kevin, I think that's the next
We've
class.
Talked about that. We have a separate feature that's more about sort of educating players and getting them to a point to where they're more comfortable doing harder content, like some of the more challenging dungeons and whatnot. But it would take, I think, a bit more than just having it in, like, for example, in the training room. There's a bit more to do within that, but it is a great idea, and it's actually something we very much have discussed internally as well too. So we are looking at ways. We have a longer term feature plan that will hopefully help players better understand some of the mechanics within Neverwinter in terms of like boss mechanics, as well as just some of their class mechanics, learning how to perform their roles better, understand what's valuable about it, and using things also, the common thing of like artifacts and mount calls, etc. These sort of like player derived strategies that have appeared that are very important.
Noticeable.
And, players can kind of only learn them by doing them right now. We'd like to try to get more ways for players to understand the value of those, etc. going forward. But it's a larger feature. We have components of that, but sadly, it's something that's going to take a bit more time to get into. We don't have a great way, for example, just throwing it in the training room and saying, "Cool, do this once," and then you get it right. The reality is that's not that simple. Learning takes a lot of repetition. So just, for example, just putting it as a one-off in the training room wouldn't, I think, accomplish the effect. So we have a bigger feature that will hopefully help hammer some of those mechanics in.
And then there was also a request from Borker, when will heroes get dying dummies to test healing? So.
Good question. I thought that there were some. I thought in the training room there were specifically damaged ones that you could heal. I'd have to double check, but if there's not, then we'll see what we can do and try to get those added in.
Yeah, it could be.
It's a good update.
It could also be that players want ones that aren't just damaged, but they continue to take damage, like they're actually in the process of dying. So you can kind of gauge how much you have to hit them with healing to get them to a more stable place. So. At least that's my experience as a healer. It's one of the hardest parts, knowing when to hit them with certain.
I'll check with the content and systems team about that, so we can get some better practice dummies in.
Mm-hmm. So we are getting a lot of questions about classes. Of course, everyone has the class that they care the strongest about, and Wizards did get some updates.
Here's about classes, guys. Here's something about classes
and so,
now.
of course, we're getting questions about is there something planned for other classes like what's been done with Wizard? So any thoughts on upcoming class?
Come on, leak it up, leak it up.
We obviously came out with the Wizards. Hopefully that goes smoothly. We're going to keep an eye on the balance and make sure that we didn't overtune them and whatnot. So please don't jump on the Wizard bandwagon just because if it winds up being strong, we will continue to make adjustments to live classes.
They're going to nerf. They're going to nerf radically out of line.
But the next classes that we've talked about working on is Paladins, and so we are going to continue to work on classes. We do not have a timetable for that. So when I say that we're working on Paladins, that doesn't mean that Paladins are going to come. Updates to Paladins are going to come out in the next 3 months. That we may do some light updates now. We may do some more updates next summer. But we've kind of softly internally committed to looking at Paladins, which will force us to also look a little bit at healing balance. And I know that, the systems designers, as well as a number of other people that have played a lot of it, very much want to kind of take a little bit of a top level pass look at healing balance to sort of even things out a bit, and specifically try to help out Paladins on the healing in particular. They're reasonably solid on tanks, but the healing elements, it's very difficult, for example, for new Paladins to solo heal in some of the dungeons because just generally speaking, while they do have good shields, their targeted actual health recovery is lower. That's balanced based on their shields, but it's difficult. For example, if you're trying to heal a bunch of DPS that are running around like chickens and get their health topped off, it could be pretty challenging.
Yeah, Damien, it's still slow and shit. Bullshit.
So they're a little bit easier to play on the early edge. They're a lot better once they get into higher links, but it's tough early on, and we know that, and so that's why I said Paladins in general are sort of our next target class to look at after Wizards.
I'm gonna do a quick giveaway now because we're a little bit past the halfway mark.
All right, giveaway. So, I'm gonna enter.
If you would like a chance to win the new, I'm gonna start out with the new mount. I'll give out. It is the Rainbow Starry Tiger. So
everything is rainbow. Everything is rainbow, guys. What the fuck?
So please type in the word in chat, the word drow, D-R-O-W, drow.
Drow.
Because the drow have to have their moment again. So and
is that the way of the drow?
Oh, I'm so proud of you, Brett. Oh, that was summoning some Terramac right there. And while people are entering that, and Moobot tries to it always is delayed in how it is getting the entries. And yes, it's Drow, D-R-O-W.
Let's see.
And fun story, it wasn't until this year that I realized where the name Drider
It's always
from.
rainbow, something, tiger, rainbow this, rainbow that.
That's really sad.
And it's always
a tiger. It took me that long to realize that. Yeah. So, all right. So it looks like Moobot is going a little bit slow, so I'm going to give it some more time. So I'm going to take some other questions because there was one that particularly caught my attention. And
I got like 55 viewers. They have 200.
But no, barbarians are not currently up on the slated. However, specifically, there is a few issues with the Sentinel class that we may look at sooner rather than later, depending on how things go. It's more like some small bug fixes and quality of life changes, but much so on the Blade Master. I know that Blade Masters are popular, but at the same time, they're not as problematic right now as some of the other classes that we wanted to look at, like Paladins.
Yeah, we are problematic. Come on.
All right. Sorry, for some reason.
Hey, Maura, what's up, girl?
Not.
Yeah, Pally will get some love, Kevin.
Even if you already entered in once, type in Drow again because for some reason Moobot is not wanting to work well with me today. So.
Drow.
Okay, it is now finally registering draws. So yes, please go ahead and retype it if you haven't. Hiccup with the reading Twitch.
Quickly, I'll just say that we are looking at some of the enchantments, combat enchantments, and other things like that too. And so we'll actually be doing some reviews of those. We want to continue to make the enchantments of all slots and whatnot interesting and have good variety. So we've actually been discussing some additions and changes to exactly those. So we'll look at stuff like, I think Battle Tempered is the one that's been coming up in chat. We'll be taking some look at the both existing enchantments as well as some of the new ones when we do that. So we'll try to make sure that we get that covered when we do it.
More enchantments, bring back the lightning.
To draw. Let's see.
Bring back the lightning.
For the upcoming Rainbow Starry Tiger. All right, Pro-Vigilance.
Red Pop, what's up?
Congratulations, Pro-Vigilance.
Pro-Vigilance, got it.
Get your reward when I draw two others. Oni-chan Nya. I like that name a lot. That's a very cute avatar. So Pro-Vigilance and Oni-chan. And then we've got Ludwig Ono. So congratulations,
I
Ludwig
don't know
Ono,
who that is.
Oni-chan, and Provigilance. Please email
You want a hamster, companion, or vanity pet?
That's community
I don't know.
at crypticstudios.com. And then let me know what platform you're on. And
They
as soon as I have
announced
the code
mod
settled, like, all the issues
29.
have been fixed, I will send you the code for your
Now
preferred
that's a
platform.
roadmap.
And this is for the Rainbow.
That's for the next
Tiger
3
mount.
years.
Sorry, Rainbow Tiger mount.
Up to 20. What is now?
So let's
2020,
see
like 5.
If I've missed any, I apologize. I'm gonna go look at my notes. Okay.
Wow.
Let's see. There was another question that came in a bit earlier, which was instances haven't always been capped at 25. Last I remember, it was 10 to 15 from Dragonbone Vale.
Instances.
At 25, it makes the game feel much more alive.
Dustin, never. Probably never.
We are very much going to try to do that. We have been improving our basically attention to performance issues, which was some of the limitations that we saw with Dragonbone Vale and some of the prior ones. And we're very much trying to ensure that we can hit a solid performance baseline, which is sort of the limiter when it comes to the sometimes the player caps that we can have in each of the instances. So we're doing what we can, and we're taking it very seriously. And you can see sort of the results in North Dark Reaches. And we hope that in module 25 and beyond, we have similar results. It'll still vary somewhat slightly because sometimes our aspirations for environments are bigger than others. Some are just riskier and have higher costs to do, but we hope that we can find that good balance where we can get more people into zones. So we definitely like having higher player numbers, and it's the target we want to shoot for.
I will check that. I will check that.
Some information from Lasser, who
okay, Lasser got some information.
My team's messages for, and he let me know that we are planning on potentially testing Demogorgon on preview next week. So.
Oh, okay. So preview.
You want to get your hands on some demons.
We gotta get 10 people
and other things. Stay tuned. We'll hopefully get it up there on preview. Let's see. Spawn UK. Is there any plans or talk of introducing either a new system or a complete overhaul of an existing system that is not directly combat related, with a view to making it a more integral part of the game, thereby giving players something more to do?
I will check that Epic Games.
Accomplishment. That's a lot in that question.
It is a lot. And I assume that like the comparable system would be something like Professions or whatnot. Mm-hmm. We don't have current plans for like a massive new system in exactly that way. There are some ideas that we've thrown around, but I can't get into too much details. But for example, we're not currently planning on doing something as elaborate as like adding another new profession system. I'm not saying, making just a second profession system, but a system like Professions. We have had some cool ideas, and there's some ones, but I can't commit us to doing those right now because they are very costly, and it takes oftentimes months, if not multiple modules worth of development to get one of those things in, because it takes some time to develop it, implement it, test it, balance it, etc.
Dragonbone Vale is wise. The loot table have some rings in Adventure Zone.
One right now, you probably wouldn't see it until module
the new zone is also junk.
Possibly even module 27. They're very, very long tail kind of things when we plan those types of things out.
Sunny Money 12 wants to know, is Valindra ever going to die? She's a lich.
Right. Maybe. I would love to see that happen. For me, that's something I would very much want to get rid of some of those pesky liches. Not Makos, but some of the other pesky liches out there.
Big news, guys. Big news.
I think Wizards of the Coast might, want to have a say in what we do with lore. So.
But if they continue with these mods,
they're
going to be good. We'll see about those blocks they were talking about.
Are you going to say something, Brett? Or?
I was going to say, I know that questions have been coming up since I've been asking about strongholds. We still have some small updates to strongholds, but we're not playing any massive ones. You saw that most recently we did the Dragonflights updates, and we're going to try to continue to look at some of the existing things, but we don't, for example, have a massive overhaul. The strongholds system is not something that is on our list for like a substantial feature change or redo. That being said, like I said, if we are doing features, we would tie them, generally speaking, into the various modules, but we do not have the any kind of like substantial stronghold revamp for right now on our block. There's some things, like I said, we would like to do, perhaps on a light cost balance update, as well as refreshing some things, but we do not have like redo stronghold, add new buildings kind of approach to strongholds currently on our radar.
We need a lot of black pearls.
The question is, seeing that appearance libraries are a thing, and for those of you who aren't aware, we did increase the amount of appearance slots you can have, which I know some people were really waiting for that one. But they ask, would it be possible to separate them into presets that are not tied to loadouts that players have?
That would take a bit more work. It's something that we could look at, but it's not something we could do simply. So it's a great suggestion, but it's not something that we could like quickly and easily do right away. But it's a cool idea.
I'm trying to picture our UX and our UI designers' faces right now. At that thought. Another question is, any thoughts about giving the player rewards for the collection points? For example, giving them a unique mount if they collected all mounts in each mount category.
Well, boons are giving 1% per rank.
We've talked about like a collection store, if you will, or a collection rewards in the future. It's not something we've jumped on, but it's something that we've discussed. But right now, I'm not going to commit to anything. It's something it's on our wish list of like we really would like to have some more value for the collections and earning the collection points. And it could probably wind up being like a collection store or like specific achievement.
Luckily we got Brett
and get something where just we have a store where you can spend the points on things.
Luckily we got Brett.
And there was another question. I believe it was. There you go. From Nova. The Tower of Nasad was fun to play. Keeping this theme, has the team considered a tower with levels that get harder by each floor? Maybe something endless, like repeating bosses, but worth grinding. Like floor 10 drops like 500 powder.
We've talked about exactly that feature numerous times. I think ever since I started working at Cryptic Studios, that idea has come up. I'm not going to commit to anything once again, but it's something that when we propose features for a module, that is one of the features that almost always comes up at some point. Whenever we talk about like, hey, we want to do some features, someone's like, we want to do an endless dungeon or an endless tower or something along those lines. So it comes up. It may eventually show up. We just need to find the right place to put it.
Oh, 0.2. My bad.
Many of your last player base miss having options with things like their feats. Any chance we can see more options to add flavor to unique builds and play styles?
We definitely want to ensure that various play styles have more options. That's why we've been trying to do some things, for example, like trying to make more mount insignia bonuses relevant. And we're going to be looking at a few other things where we think that there's sort of a bit of bias where like there are options, but players really aren't utilizing them. Like I said, mentioned, we're going to be looking at some of the enchantments to try to open that space up a little bit more to interesting options. We've been very much obviously focusing on doing that with some of the more recent rewards and trying to add more interesting item options there too. But specifically, it's tricky for us to commit to any one thing, and specific class-based feats or class features or whatnot are limiting. We have looked at boons though very much as another system that we would like to be able to do things where it's like, hey, we recognize that the boons are very polarizing. There's not as many interesting choices, especially the master boons, and we would like to perhaps revisit those and add more interesting options to it.
All right.
It's unlikely that we would do something class specific unless we were doing a class update. Like if we are, some of the various class features as well as boons changed with each of our recent revamps.
I agree.
We would likely look at meta things that affect all classes, again, like boons or like insignias, etc., that we could add more interesting options to, because we know that there's not as much meaningful choice there as we would like.
Yep. That's the other question. I had it in front of me. Someone was asking about rank 6 enchanting stones, I believe it was. Yes, there we go. Speed Goddess Avatar. When is the rank 6 enchanting stone change coming? And I believe they're referring to I had mentioned a couple of
times ago 6 enchanting stone, blah blah.
Because I know that right now it's
higher boons.
You can get it in some stores, but people can't use it. And I believe I mentioned that we were hoping to bring it back soon so that people could use it. So have you heard any updates on that, Brett?
Nothing yet, so I can't comment on the enchanting stone rank 6. But we did fix a couple of other things, like older versions of market potencies have hopefully been eliminated from things like refining bags and a few other areas. So I know that there's still a few lingering areas from the enchantment rework earlier this year where there's those issues, and we're trying to iron them all out as we can tackle them and make sure that there are appropriate replacement rewards and they're not showing up in other places, and that if we have a refinement item, that it has value and a purpose.
So QQEI2, looks like they're watching without audio, so I'm going to ask their question. Hopefully they can watch it later, so I'm going to let them know. They ask, are there plans to update the Hardcore Epic Dungeoneer achievement to include Advanced Dungeon added after Ravenloft?
Actually, we generally don't want to modify old achievements. There are certain limitations, and in fact, we're not supposed to mess around with old achievements to a degree for players that have already earned them. What we actually should do instead is actually add new achievements that include those new dungeons. So we would add Advanced Hard Dungeoneer Part 2 with additional achievements for the new ones. But actually, you're not supposed to update old achievements in some cases because you don't want to change the bar after some players have already earned it. So if someone's already got it earned, we don't want to take it away or retroactively remove it, etc. So the better thing is we should be trying to add some more achievements for this. But we'll look into that. That's a great thing, is to add some more meta achievements that overlap some of the more new content.
So I am seeing questions about the frame rate on console especially, and plans on fixing that. I know that typically involves working with other teams, so I don't know if you want to give some insight as to what happens when we get reports of frame rate and lag on console.
We are working on we have a mix of sort of platform specific issues, PlayStation specific issues, Xbox specific issues, and even sometimes PC specific issues. But we do know of some performance related issues on both PlayStation and on Xbox that we are looking at. We have a sort of central core technology team, and they help address some of those, especially if it's not related to specific content. For example, we know that certain zones have better performance than others. And we know that, for example, there's certain parts of Sharandar that don't perform as well as we'd like. But hopefully you are all seeing that North Dark Reaches performs pretty solidly. But there are some just game-wide performance issues, and those generally have to be solved in our technology.
I agree.
So we
Chris
do have
did some
issues.
good
we
changes.
Do know of a couple of
but he burned out.
Separate, unique to the PlayStation, the Xbox that we're working on. And sadly, this we're to the point now where we're dealing with some very, very old PlayStation and Xbox hardware, and we need to try to make sure that we test everything on original versions. For example, of the PlayStation 4 versus the PlayStation 4 Pro versus the PlayStation 5. But even very old versions of the PlayStation 4, for example, have different performance profiles now than the more recent non-Pro, versions of the PlayStation 4 even. So we definitely see even different performance specs on those. If you talk to someone that has a day one launch PlayStation 4, it'll perform slightly differently than someone that had a PlayStation 4 that was released 2 or 3 years in. So we're managing all that. I apologize for those of you who are experiencing any kind of performance issues on whether it's Xbox or whether it's on PlayStation or any of the hardware platforms. We do have open issues on those, and we're trying to do what we can to improve those.
Yeah, and I mean, as someone we all are concerned, we try to help as much as possible. So I know that a few of us were actually bringing up our retail.
Did one mistake the bonding exchange? Oh, he did much more than that.
Tested on testing kits.
He did much more than that.
Have the retail version,
much more than that.
The same version you would have at home.
In my own opinion,
we're bringing them up in our place and checking to see that performance issue.
I didn't notice. I'm not tracking the chat actually.
So I was able to bring up the game and notice.
She won't ask for that anyway.
It's something that we all do take it very seriously.
Yeah, they are really fast in deleting messages. Hey, Tiandra.
So Brett, how do you feel about breaking people's hearts right now?
Do I have to? I really don't want to.
They're asking.
Generally speaking, I'm trying to be nice.
Whoa, what now? What now?
Well, okay, maybe we'll rip off the Band-Aid. They're asking about, are we working on a new class?
Okay. Oh, if they're asking working on something. The answer is no. We are currently not working on a new class. We're not. I know there's some fans out there. We are not working on the druid, and we are not working on the monk. Those
no
are
druid, no monk, guys.
Last mainstay classes of D&D that are not present in Neverwinter. We got the bard in finally, which is great, but we currently are not working on the druid, and we're not working on the monk either. That's not to say we would never do them, but they are not in our short to near term release schedule. You will not see them in M25,
there's your answer,
very
guys.
unlikely to see them in M26.
Has the bind status of the Mod 24 campaign weapons changed to bind on pickup character? If so, why? They were obtainable unbound on preview.
They're still unbound.
Sometimes the bind statuses do change between preview and live because in a lot of cases on preview or even within our internal test servers, we're trying to facilitate lots of quick testing. And so that's why it's important for us to say that when you see things on preview, they don't always reflect how they will be earned or how they can be owned or transferred when they go to live. Because again, a lot of times on preview, we're just trying to facilitate as quick testing as possible, whether it's with our own people that play on the preview server or with community people that come on, etc. So I can't comment on the specifics on that. I'd have to go look and see what the bind status it is on live right now. But a fair warning, like I said, if you see something on preview, don't take that as canon, and that's how it's going to ship. Because in some cases we cheat things, we reduce costs, we make things more approachable, we make things easier to get, we expedite access to campaigns and things just to try to get people to be able to test things in a much more shorter time.
Do you know, guys, how hard it is to get at those weapons?
Works with especially the closed alpha early access folks. I know it's sometimes challenging.
We got 5 more minutes.
You're engaging with content to.
He gave a lot of information,
what it might look like on live. You have people testing things out on Owlbear, which might not even look like what it's going to look like on preview, and preview might not look like the final result on live.
Oh, come on,
so
Julia, just
I
give
know
it a
it's
break.
tough to keep in mind sometimes because you're there, it's the same game. But yes, when
No
you see
new
things on
class.
Aldera preview, that is not final, it's not set in stone. And even when things go to preview later on, we might make changes if if we get feedback. So yes, just just keep that in mind when you're especially when you're testing. Oh, actually, I have a question for you, Brett, which is, will I be able to share the presentation that you showed earlier? Can I put it on like the forum somewhere? Is that something that can be shareable?
I believe so. I don't think there's any confidential information in that one. So if people want access to the images or like specifically probably the calendar slides and things like that too, I'm more than happy to share that with the community. We may just like do some printouts and throw up the calendar slides. So
yeah, no, I personally look forward to the
Back
especially
to
Nova's
DDO,
analysis of each little line.
Anyway, we can transfer RP via ShareBank. No, Robert.
I specifically was very careful about selecting misleading images.
We cannot transfer RP.
More astute content creators could not infer what it was we were trying to do.
Yep.
I'll figure it out. Once we get closer to some dates, I'll start dropping more hints and leaking things. So.
Oh no. So Provigilance just adds a comment, which is sometimes knowing versus not knowing is a big help, even knowing if a class is being worked on. Glad has been provided for now. So yeah, I mean, I know sometimes it's not always the answer you want to hear, but I feel like it's important to at least answer it. So, let's see. There were some other questions.
That's Frida, that's funny.
Missed it.
Well, not yet. I don't know, but it should be.
Fuzz Meister J has been asking a few times about like, can you not add more no death achievements? So, what are your thoughts on achievements like no death, Brett?
So no death achievements are tricky because they are very challenging. They encourage players to do a lot of coordination and communication. The problem is that they're extremely intolerant of things like internet latency or technical problems and things like that too. And that's kind of unfortunate. And the way I kind of look at it, and this is something we have in Reaper's Challenge. In Reaper's Challenge, we have a no revives, and that's something that we may.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Ashes.
No revives means that hey, somebody dies, you might have to wipe and retry the boss battle at least, but it doesn't kick you out like in hardcore mode and make you start the whole instance over again. Vault of Stores hardcore was sort of a bit of an experiment. We've done hardcore things with like Redeem Citadel and such before that, and Vault of Stores hardcore was like an interesting way to say like, hey, we want to have like this really challenging thing that really taxes skill and encourages people to coordinate and actually be a bit more defensive. Like you use a lot more crowd control in hardcore Vault of Stores, and we like that. But at the same time, if somebody lags out in the middle of Prince of Frost, like that's it. The run's over, start over. Everyone's spent 25 minutes and there's nothing they can do just due to a little bit of unfortunate latency with that. So we want to find ways to challenge players to encourage that level of
I'll talk about Ashes when
do things like use lots of CC that they might normally just like, whatever. If I die, I'll just get revived. And we hope that we may be able to accomplish that without using hardcore, but with using rules like no revives and other things, which stress staying alive, but without that sort of punishing element of the true hardcore flag that we currently have.
Mac and Ketchup says we need hardcore Vault of Stars Volume 2.
All right then.
So see, it's funny to see the difference in our player base, which is some people, don't strive to do like the hardest. They don't enjoy the whole being killed repeatedly until they get it right, and other people really do enjoy that.
It's very much a big spectrum. Like I said, that's what we see with Neverwinter. We see players that are approach the game very casually, that love to play it. They're not doing the master trials, but they love doing dungeons and random queues. And we see some players that their primary interest is the exact opposite. They just want to do like Tom and try to go for the deathless achievement and that's how they play the game. We always try to find a way to appeal to all those audiences so that the players of various skill levels and
actually Q83, I did not try the New World Fresh servers.
Fun, and so we try
I will
for all those various
I just had a lot of work with Neverwinter.
So Oni-chan actually mentioned something that reminds me of a couple things. She asks any way to get more Fallen Wings, and for those of you who might not be aware, if you go to the
she didn't get the sarcasm.
for the next few weeks, you can get these Fallen Wings, which are pretty cool. But that also reminds me that some people might not be aware that if you don't meet the item level for the new campaign, the first 3 weeks of the module,
we know that.
been removed. So go ahead and try it out. before the item level restriction comes in. We make, we're doing that to make it more accessible at the beginning, and also incentivize players to.
We want content and challenge, yeah.
Continue later
exactly,
on. So if you
exactly.
do not know that information, now you know it. So check out the campaign. There is no excuse right
I
now.
wish there was classic.
I think the question about the Fallen Wings, though, was that we only had a single giveaway for that, and it was character bound. And I thought that we had talked about there was a solution for that was going to make it so that you could get that on your various characters. Because, like, I have a bunch of alts, and I only have the wings on one character right now.
Yeah, you fucked up
yes,
the
so
tooltip.
thank you, Drinkgirly, for the additional information, but that is something that we can follow up on. So I'm gonna grab a couple more 3 more names for giveaways. So Brett, if you wanna look to see if there's any questions I have missed.
I'll scroll up while you're handling that.
All right.
Well, D3LC, LC.
All right, let's keep it.
LC.
So if you would like a chance to win the Rainbow Starry Tiger mount, not Panther, the Tiger, type in the word Northdark, Northdark, Northdark. I'm gonna make people type a word.
All right.
Some people asking, Dragonborn helms. It's unlikely, unfortunately, we'd be able to go back and make the old helms work. It's unfortunately takes a good bit of per asset work, unfortunately, for us to do
watch
that.
Watch me win this shitty ass
like having to go back and some of those were built well before the Dragonborn were a thing, and as a result, they weren't designed to fit their heads, and it takes a lot of effort.
But there's 200
when we look at where we spend our
so...
time, we can be adding new helms and cool new armors to the games, or we can be spending a ton of time reworking.
No, they're giving away some
better for us to just be adding cool new ones that
that I really don't need.
If there are specific ones that people really want, let us know. We can potentially get a couple really of the cool, more valuable ones that players really miss. But it's really hard for us to say we can just blanket fix all of the old helms to work with some of the races that came out years after Neverwinter's release.
So I'm gonna start drawing winners, but Ace Aether asks, do you think it's possible to add a way to duel other players, like a duel request type thing?
No,
So,
I don't think so.
Is there a way to make it so the players can duel each other?
I don't think so.
Good question. We can potentially look at that. We'd probably have to do something more like maybe a dual arena, the way that PvP works in Neverwinter. There's certain things that we have to do. We might be able to set up a small PvP arena or something along those lines. Similar if you think of the open world PvP present in some of the Icewind Dale zones and such. We might be able to do something along those lines, something a bit more self-contained.
So I drew 3 names, and this is Destin Moon 64, Dr. Zeus 73, and Wet 2502. Congratulations once again, Destin Moon 64, Dr. Zeus 73, and Wet 2502. Congratulations on winning the Rainbow Starry Tiger mount. Please go ahead and email community@crypticstudios.com to let me know what platform you're on. Xbox, PlayStation, or PC. So I can give you the proper code. Once again, it's community@crypticstudios.com.
Hey, Wanda. Thank you all guys for coming.
We are at time, and I believe we're in the similar meetings, so I think we need to start wrapping up.
I'm gonna do the recap of this.
Share or any other information?
And
no, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who's watching the stream, who might be listening in later,
for coming.
Might be
and
reviewing this on a content creator summary or reaction stream. Thank you, everyone. I hope
will do the
enjoying
summary.
And I hope that you're enjoying Northdark Reaches in particular.
Thank you all for coming.
Again, we'll have a few more updates that come out here this year before sort of the Christmas holidays and other breaks. Cryptic also takes some time off over the winter break as well, and then we'll be plugging away and trying to ensure that we hit with the next module coming out here in March.
All right.
I'm actually going to be traveling for the upcoming Thanksgiving break, so I'll be gone for a little bit. But for those of you familiar with Persimer,
all right, bye guys.
Talk to him.
Thank you for stream
for any community stuff, and of course the moderators.
And coming. And I will see you soon, guys.
Enjoy my vacation.
Cheers, and I will see you. The video will be up in 20 minutes.
Just in case
so
people are wondering where I am.
Cheers, all.